She will open doors. The big
China just flew a drone that carries over 100 attack drones inside its belly. No pilot, no crew, just a 16-ton flying aircraft carrier that takes off, releases a swarm of smart killer drones, and directs them to overwhelm an entire naval fleet. Chinese state television already released a video showing exactly that, and the target in the video was a U.S. Navy carrier strike group. That video was not science fiction. It was a government-produced concept video shown to the world in May of 2025. And 6 months later, that aircraft took flight for real. But here is what China did not show you, what the U.S. Navy is building in response. What you are about to see is a race unlike anything the world has witnessed since the space competition of the 1960s. On one side, China is fielding the most advanced aerial drone mothership ever built. On the other side, the U.S. Navy is constructing a layered autonomous war machine so complex and far-reaching that military planners have given it one unforgettable name, the Hellscape. Before the Cold War, nations raced for nuclear bombs. Today, they are racing for drone dominance, and right now, that race is closer than most Americans realize. Drop a comment below and tell us, do you believe the U.S. military still holds the edge? Type Eagle if you do. China's drone mothership. Let's start with what China actually built. The drone is called the Jiutian. The name translates from Chinese as 9 heavens, a reference to the highest point in the sky, and the name fit. This aircraft was designed to operate at an altitude of 49,000 feet. That is higher than most commercial airliners cruise. At that height, it is nearly invisible to ground-based observers, and it sits above the engagement range of many shorter-range surface-to-air missiles. The Jiutian was first revealed to the public at China's Zhuhai Air Show in November of 2024. The crowd watched a full-scale model sit on display. Defense analysts from around the world photographed every inch of it. The dimensions alone were staggering. The aircraft stretches 53 feet in length. Its wingspan reaches 82 feet across. It weighs 16 tons at maximum takeoff weight, and it can carry 6 tons of payload, which means it can carry guided bombs, air-to-air missiles, cruise missiles, loitering munitions, and over 100 small attack drones, all at the same time. Then on December 11th of 2025, Jiutian left the ground for real. The maiden flight took place in Pucheng County, in China's Shaanxi province. Chinese state media confirmed it. The aircraft took off, flew a mission, and landed. No drama, no ceremony beyond a few posts on state media. Just quiet, methodical progress, the kind that should get the attention of every American who cares about national security. Here is what makes the Jiutian genuinely dangerous. It is not just a big drone. It is a command node, a flying aircraft carrier. When it reaches its operating altitude and location, it opens up and releases a swarm of smaller drones. Those smaller drones then operate as a coordinated unit, guided by artificial intelligence. They scan, they identify, they attack simultaneously from multiple angles, overwhelming any single defensive system trying to track them all at once. China's military analysts have not been quiet about the intent. Wang Yanan, chief editor of Aerospace Knowledge magazine in China, stated publicly that these swarms could overwhelm enemy air defenses in future asymmetric warfare scenarios. That is a direct quote from an official Chinese publication. The Jiu Tian also carries a modular design. That word modular matters a great deal. It means the aircraft can be reconfigured for different missions without being rebuilt. One day it carries small suicide drone. The next day it carries reconnaissance equipment. The day after that it carries cruise missiles. You never know what is coming out of it until it opens its belly. China's state-run media also depicted the Jiutian being used in coordinated groups, multiple Jiutians flying in formation, each releasing its own swarm, all working together. The concept video showed those swarms converging on a U.S. carrier strike group, clearing the way for ballistic and anti-ship missiles to finish the job. That is the threat. That is what the U.S. Navy woke up to. The U.S. answer begins. Now, most people assume the United States has been caught flat-footed. That is not the full picture. The men and women of the U.S. military have been working on this problem for years. The Pentagon did not wait for China to fly the Jiutian before taking action. In August of 2023, the Department of Defense launched what it called the Replicator Initiative. The goal was direct: field thousands of autonomous drones across multiple domains, air, sea, and undersea, fast enough to matter. The person behind that push was then Deputy Secretary of Defense Kathleen Hicks. She made no attempt to hide the objective. She said plainly that the program was designed to overcome China's advantage in mass. China has more ships. China has more missiles. China has more manufacturing capacity. The answer, she argued, was not to outbuild China ship for ship. It was to flood contested waters with cheap, smart, autonomous system that any invading fleet would have to fight through first. Admiral Samuel Paparo, commander of U.S. forces in the Indo-Pacific, went further. In June of 2024, he told reporters that if China ever attempted to cross the Taiwan Strait, his forces would turn that waterway into an unmanned hellscape. That phrase became one of the most quoted statements in modern naval history. The Taiwan Strait, at its narrowest point, is roughly the width of the English Channel. Any military force attempting to cross it would spend hours in open water. During those hours, Paparo's plan calls for thousands of autonomous drones, aerial, surface, and submarine, to be unleashed. Networked together, coordinating without waiting for orders from a distant command post. Representative Mike Gallagher, one of the most respected voices on national security in Congress, summarized the strategy with blunt precision. He said the goal is to make the Taiwan Strait the most dangerous place on Earth for an invading fleet. That is not a threat born of emotion. That is a military doctrine being built piece by piece, system by system, right now. Before we get into the specific weapons the Navy is deploying, take 5 seconds right now to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. These are the stories the mainstream news is barely covering, and the only way we can keep bringing them to you is if you stay with us. Most people watching have never subscribed. Don't be most people. The weapons being built. So what exactly is the U.S. Navy putting into the water and the air? Let's start with the program making the most headlines right now. On April 25th of 2026, just weeks ago, Boeing's MQ-25A Stingray completed its first operational test flight. The aircraft took off from Mid-America Airport in Muscoda, Illinois. It flew for 2 hours. It performed autonomous taxi, takeoff, navigation, and landing, all without a pilot in the cockpit. The entire flight was controlled from a ground station using Lockheed Martin's MDCX autonomy system. The MQ-25A Stingray is the first carrier-based unmanned aircraft ever built for the U.S. Navy. It is designed to launch from and land on America's nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, the most powerful warships ever constructed. A total of 76 Stingrays are planned for the fleet. Now, the Stingray's primary job is aerial refueling. That might sound less exciting than dropping bombs, but do not be fooled. Every F-35C and F/A-18 Super Hornet it refuels in the air gains 300 to 500 extra nautical miles of range. The carrier strike group's reach extends dramatically. Targets that were once unreachable become reachable. The Stingray turns every carrier into a far longer arm, and the Navy is on record saying the MQ-25 is the platform that unlocks the future for manned-unmanned teaming on the aircraft carrier. It is the first step, the foundation. Once unmanned aircraft are normalized operating from a carrier deck, the door opens for combat configured drones to follow. Those combat drones already have a name. They are called Collaborative Combat Aircraft, or CCAs. In September of 2025, the Navy awarded conceptual design contracts to 4 of the largest defense companies in America: Anduril, Boeing, General Atomics, and Northrop Grumman. Lockheed Martin received a separate contract to build the common control architecture, the nervous system that ties all those drones together. What these companies are building is a carrier air wing where manned fighters like the F-35C fly alongside autonomous wingmen. The wingmen go first. They absorb the risk. They jam enemy radar. They draw fire. They clear the path. Then the manned fighters come in for precision strikes with far less danger. This is not a concept on a whiteboard. Contracts have been signed. Development money has been spent. The timeline is real. Then there is the sea component. The Navy has committed at least $160 million to a company called Black Sea, which is producing dozens of its global autonomous reconnaissance craft boats every single month. These are unmanned surface vessels, drone boats built to patrol, surveil, and engage. Another company, Saronic, makes the Corsair Sea drone, recently valued at $4 billion in a private funding round, backed by some of the most respected names in technology investment. Unmanned Surface Vessel Squadron 3, nicknamed the Hellhounds, has already received its first fleet of autonomous surface craft. This unit exists. It is operational. It is training right now. Put all of that together: the MQ-25 Stingray extending carrier reach, the CCA loyal wingmen flying combat missions alongside manned fighters, the drone boat squadrons patrolling contested waters, and the replicator swarms waiting to be unleashed, and you start to see what the Hellscape actually looks like from the inside. It is not one weapon. It is a layered, interconnected web of autonomous systems so dense and so fast that any adversary attempting to break through it faces an impossible math problem: the gap and the race. Here is where the honest picture gets more complicated, and you deserve the honest picture. China flew its Jiutian in December of 2025. The US Navy flew the MQ-25 Stingray in April of 2026. On paper, that looks like a close race, but the nature of what each aircraft does is fundamentally different. The Jiutian is a purpose-built flying drone carrier. It exists specifically to release attack swarms at high altitude and overwhelm defenses through sheer numbers. The MQ-25 Stingray is a tanker. It refuels fighters. It does not carry attack drones. That job is coming, but it is coming through the CCA program, which is still in the conceptual design phase. The US Navy has also hit real turbulence in its drone programs. The Replicator initiative missed some of its original deadline. A senior Navy admiral overseeing the drone acquisition office was fired for loss of confidence in his leadership. A $20 million software contract was frozen after testing problems. The MQ-25 Stingray itself was originally supposed to deploy on USS Theodore Roosevelt in 2026. That timeline has now shifted to 2029. These are real challenges. No one should pretend otherwise. But here is the critical context that those numbers do not tell you. America does not need to match China drone for drone. The entire strategic logic of the Hellscape is different from the Jiutian concept. China is trying to project power outward to send a flying drone carrier toward enemy ships and unleash swarms offensively. America's drone strategy is built around denial, making it catastrophically expensive for any enemy to cross a body of water it does not control. The Taiwan Strait is 110 miles wide. Any amphibious invasion requires hundreds of transport ships, landing craft, and escort vessels to cross it over a period of hours. That crossing has to happen in the open, in range of everything the US and its allies can bring to bear. The Hellscape does not need to win a drone-on-drone fight in open airspace. It needs to make that crossing cost more ships and more lives than any rational commander would accept. That strategic logic, denial over projection, plays to America's strengths. And it is a logic that the men and women of the US military helped design, test, and are now building hardware to execute. What comes next? The competition is not slowing down, it is accelerating. China's Jiutian is moving through its flight test program right now. Production planning is already underway. The aircraft is not sitting still. On the American side, the Navy is targeting initial operational capability for the MQ-25 Stingray by 2027 Stingray, with trained crews deployed on a carrier and ready for real missions. The CCA Loyal Wingman program is moving from conceptual designs toward prototype testing. The Air Force version already flew in August of 2025, with over 1,000 units planned. The Navy version is following the same path. And here is the piece that rarely gets said out loud. America's aircraft carriers are already drone motherships, just far more powerful than anything China has built. A Gerald R. Ford class carrier holds up to 90 aircraft. When the MQ-25 joins that air wing and CCAs follow, that ship becomes a platform projecting autonomous combat power hundreds of miles in every direction. China built a drone mothership that weighs 16 tons and carries 100 small drones. The U.S. Navy is building something that weighs 100,000 tons, and it is just getting started. Conclusion: the Jiutian is a serious machine. Anyone who dismisses it is not paying attention. But the U.S. military is not standing still. The Hellscape strategy, the Stingray, the Loyal Wingmen, the drone boat squadrons, these are not promises. They are funded, contracted, and moving forward. This race is real. The stakes could not be higher, and the American military, as it always has, is answering the call. If this gave you a clearer picture, hit like and subscribe. You will not want to miss what comes next.